They say loneliness gets quieter with age. That's a lie. It gets louder, sharper, and meaner, especially when the people causing it share your blood. I never thought I'd sit in my own daughter's house and feel like a ghost, but that's exactly what happened the night they sat down to dinner without me. On purpose. Hello, everyone. My name is Margaret Lane, though most folks just call me Maggie. I'm 72 years old, and if you've ever been blindsided by the people you love most, then pull up a chair. You're in good company tonight. I'm not fragile. At least, I never thought I was. I raised 3 kids practically on my own after my husband walked out when I turned 40. I worked 2 jobs, paid off a house, cooked every meal from scratch, ironed school uniforms at midnight, and still somehow managed to smile through parent-teacher conferences. I'm not the type to cry over petty things, but betrayal hits different at this age. It sits in the chest, thick, unmoving, like swallowed glass. And the night I realized my own family viewed me as an inconvenience, well, that was the night something in me hardened. Not out of cruelty, but out of self-preservation. Now, let me take you back. The SUP. My daughter, Elaine, had invited me to stay at her home for a few days. Nothing dramatic, at least not at first. My knees were bothering me again, and she insisted it would give me a break from cleaning my own place. Mom, seriously, she'd said over the phone, it'll be good for you. Just come relax. I remember smiling at my little kitchen table, the afternoon sun coming through the curtains like a warm hand on my back. All right, honey. I'll pack a bag. I didn't realize then that Elaine's idea of helping me was very different from my idea of family. Her house sits in a quiet suburb, fancy, beige, sterile. One of those neighborhoods where everyone has matching mailboxes and the grass looks like it's been combed. When I arrived, the kids barely looked up from their phones. Her husband, Mark, gave me a polite nod, the kind that says I acknowledge your existence but please don't make this complicated. But I didn't let it bother me. I told myself, they're busy. Times are different. I always make excuses. It's a mother's curse. The first day went fine, if you ignore how no one asked how I was doing. Or how Elaine spent most of her time running errands, leaving me on the couch with daytime TV humming in the background. I tried to help fold laundry, tidy up the kitchen, but she gently nudged me away. Mom, don't. You're supposed to rest. So I rested and I waited, and I told myself that maybe this was just how things were now. The strange hefty on the second evening, things got odd around 5 p.m. I smelled garlic, butter, a hint of rosemary. Someone was cooking. I peeked into the kitchen, and there was Elaine, moving quickly around the stove, tossing ingredients into a sizzling pan. Oh, I said, smiling, that smells wonderful. She jumped like she hadn't heard me approach. Oh, hi, Mom. Yeah, I'm just making something quick. What can I do to help? Oh, nothing. Really. Her voice had that clipped tone. Sharp. Polite, but strained. I looked around the kitchen. 4 plates were set out on the counter. 4. They have 5 people in the house with me included. I counted again. 4 plates, and my stomach went cold, not angry, just confused. Surely it was a mistake. Maybe she forgot, or maybe she wasn't done setting the table yet. I waited another beat, and another. Do you want me to set out a plate? I asked softly. She didn't answer right away. Instead, she let out a breath, a long, annoyed one. Like my existence was a burden, like my question was an interruption. Mom, she whispered sharply, we didn't want to overwhelm you with a big meal. Mark thought maybe something lighter would be easier on your stomach. Oh, I said. Because what else can you say when your own daughter pretends she's doing you a favor by excluding you? I can eat anything, I added quietly. She blinked, forced a smile, and turned back to the stove. That was the first moment my heart sank. But it wasn't the last. At 6 p.m., I heard the chairs scraping across the floor, laughter, silverware clinking. I walked slowly down the hallway, using the wall for balance. My joints were stiff. My throat tight. From the dining room doorway, I saw it, Elaine, Mark, and the kids all sitting around the table, passing bowls, filling glasses, leaning into the warm yellow glow of the chandelier. Mark was mid-joke, the kind that made him slap his thigh. Everyone looked comfortable. Happy. Whole, and there wasn't a single seat left for me. Not one. My breath caught in my throat and my heart beat in slow, painful thumps. Elaine glanced up, saw me in the doorway, and froze. Then she whispered something to Mark. He didn't even turn around. Suddenly Elaine stood and walked toward me with that tight, awkward smile she used when she didn't want neighbors to hear an argument through the walls. Mom, she said quietly, We just thought, since you were napping, you might want some quiet time. So we went ahead. But I made you a little plate, okay? I'll heat it up later. Napping? I hadn't napped once that day. I wasn't asleep, I said. Her smile flickered. Well, you looked tired, she murmured, not meeting my eyes. Behind her, I watched her family lift forks to their mouths, oblivious, or pretending to be. The smell of roasted chicken and herbs filled the air, warm and comforting, like a hug I wasn't invited to receive, and something inside me broke. Not loudly, not dramatically, just a quiet, exhausted fracture. Oh, I whispered. All right. I turned away before she could see the tears forming. I didn't want her to feel guilty. I didn't want to cause a scene, but I also didn't want to sit alone in the guest room like a forgotten object, so I walked outside instead. The evening air was cool. A faint breeze moved through the trees, making the leaves whisper like they were trading secrets. I sat down on one of the patio chairs, cold metal, uncomfortable, and listened to the muffled laughter filtering through the walls. My family was inside, eating a meal together, and I was outside in the dark. Because they'd chosen it, because somehow I'd become extra, unnecessary. A burden. I wrapped my arms around myself as the first tear slipped down my cheek. Not because of the dinner, but because of what it meant. I hadn't been forgotten. I'd been excluded. Intentionally. The eavesdropped conversation around the 20-minute mark. I heard voices through the open kitchen window. At first I wasn't trying to listen, but when I heard my name, well, you know how that goes. Elaine's voice tense. She's just sensitive lately. If she sees we didn't wait for her, she'll take it the wrong way. Mark's reply came blunt and irritated. Then maybe she shouldn't stay so long. My breath caught. Elaine whispered, I know. But she doesn't have anyone else. Well, that's not our fault. There was silence, then soft clinking as they resumed eating. I felt something inside me shut down, clean, precise, final. The moment I stood up for MF when the sliding door opened behind me, I didn't turn. I knew it was Elaine. Mom, she asked softly. Are you cold? You should come inside. I wiped my face quickly. No, I'm fine. Come on. I saved you a plate. Saved me a plate like I was a stray animal. No thank you, I said. She hesitated. I could feel her staring at me, trying to gauge my mood, trying to figure out if I was hurt. Of course I was hurt, but I wasn't going to give her the satisfaction of seeing it. Are you upset? She asked. I breathed in slowly. No, I said calmly. Not upset. Just reminded. Of what? That I don't belong here. Her mouth fell open. Mom, don't say that. You didn't save me a seat. We didn't think you'd want. You didn't think about me at all. That silenced her. The truth tends to do that. The inner SFT that night, while they watched TV in the living room like nothing happened, I lay awake in the guest room staring at the ceiling. I thought about all the years I had poured into my children, all the sacrifices, all the holidays and birthdays and scraped knees and broken hearts I helped mend, and now I had become optional. A background character in their lives. Something inside me, something old, tired, and loyal, finally cracked, and something new grew in its place. Resolved, if they didn't want me as family, then fine. But they would learn, slowly and quietly, that pushing me aside had consequences. I wasn't going to scream or guilt them or beg for attention. No, I was going to do something else. Something subtle, something patient, something they would never see coming. And it all started the next morning. The sun crept into the room in thin slices, cutting across the guest bed like pale yellow ribbons. I hadn't slept more than an hour. My mind kept replaying the voices I heard through the window, my daughter's hesitation, Mark's annoyance, the sound of forks clinking over conversations they didn't want me part of. I lay very still for a long time, listening. The house was quiet, but not the peaceful kind, the careful kind. Like everyone was trying not to disturb me out of guilt, or out of fear of an uncomfortable confrontation. Around 7:30, I heard footsteps in the hallway, light, quick, nervous. Elaine's. She paused outside my room. I could hear her breathing, then a soft knock. Mom? You awake? I didn't answer right away, not out of spite, no, that part of me was still in formation. It was more of a test. I wanted to hear her tone, her intention. Mom, she tried again, awkward. Breakfast is ready. If you want to join us. Join us. If I was a guest staying at a bed and breakfast. I slowly sat up, the stiffness in my joints reminding me that emotional pain is not the only type that lingers. I opened the door. Elaine stood there holding a mug of coffee like a peace offering. But her face gave her away. She was bracing. Preparing for an apology she hoped would be quick and tidy. I stepped into the hallway, and she forced a smile. I made oatmeal. With the brown sugar you like. That almost made me laugh. Brown sugar wasn't the problem, but I nodded anyway. Thank you, honey. She relaxed a little, relieved I wasn't starting World War III before breakfast. But what she didn't know was that the quietest people are the most dangerous when they've been hurt enough. The breakfast table. When I walked into the kitchen, the kids were already eating. Mark was scrolling on his phone, pretending not to notice my entrance. Morning, I said gently. 3 heads lifted. 3 forced greetings followed. Morning, Grandma. Morning. Hey. Mark mumbled, morning, without looking up. I sat at the bar counter, not at the table. They hadn't set a place for me again, and I didn't feel like asking. Elaine placed a bowl of oatmeal in front of me, and I thanked her softly. I ate a few spoonfuls, staring into the warm mush like it held answers. What changed? When did I become an afterthought? Where did the shift begin? Halfway through the meal, Elaine finally worked up the nerve. So, about last night. I didn't look up. Yes. She swallowed hard. I didn't mean to make you feel left out. That wasn't the intention. My voice was calm, not accusatory. She hesitated. No. Yes, I'm sorry. Okay. Mark chimed in, robotic. Yeah, we're sorry if you felt that way. If I felt that way. The phrasing of people who don't believe they're wrong. I set my spoon down slowly. Thank you both for apologizing. Elaine looked relieved, too relieved, because while I accepted the apology, I didn't forgive the intention. And forgiveness is something you earn, not something you're granted by default. Mark cleared his throat. So, how long are you planning to stay? Elaine shot him a glare so sharp it could have sliced butter, but I smiled. Oh, not long, I said. Actually, I was thinking of leaving today. Elaine gasped. Today? But, Mom, you said you'd stay until Sunday. I know. But I think it's best I go home. Her face changed, something between guilt and panic. No, Mom, don't go home. You're supposed to rest. I'll rest better in my own house. Mark tried to hide his relief, but I saw it. His shoulders sagged, his jaw unclenched. He wanted me gone. And that was all the confirmation I needed. The silent Pakinji went to the guest room and closed the door behind me. I packed slowly, deliberately, folding each shirt with a care I wasn't receiving. The house felt colder, sharper. Like every wall had overheard what happened last night and was judging them for it. I zipped my suitcase. Then paused. Something in the room suddenly felt symbolic, the way the sunlight hit the dresser, the faint smell of lavender detergent, the quiet hum of the AC. This house didn't feel like home. It never would again. And that realization, though painful, brought me a strange sense of clarity. A sense of freedom. I no longer had to cling to what I hoped my family was. I could finally see what they really were. And I could act accordingly. The ride Elaine insisted on driving me. Mark didn't offer. The kids barely said goodbye. The car ride was painfully quiet at first. Houses blurred past the window, each one neat and still and perfect, like a row of facades with secrets behind them. Halfway home, Elaine finally spoke. Mom, is something wrong with me? That question caught me off guard. What do you mean? She gripped the steering wheel tighter. I don't know. I feel like I keep disappointing you. That's not what this is about. Then what is it about? I looked at her, my daughter, a grown woman with worry lines around her eyes, trying so desperately to pretend she had everything under control. You didn't make room for me, I said softly. She winced. Mom, I'm not mad, I continued. I'm not yelling. I'm not even asking you for anything. I'm just acknowledging what happened. Her voice cracked. I didn't think it mattered. That made my chest ache, the honesty, the ignorance. I swallowed. It mattered to me. She blinked back tears. I didn't mean to hurt you. But you did. She nodded, her chin trembling. I know. I turned back to the window. We didn't speak the rest of the way. Back then when we pulled up to my little house, I felt something I hadn't expected, relief. My home isn't fancy. It's old, cluttered, soft around the edges. But every corner holds memories that don't hurt. Elaine helped carry my suitcase to the porch. Before she left, she hugged me tight, desperate, guilty. I love you, Mom, she whispered. I love you too, I said, because I do. But love doesn't erase disrespect. Love doesn't excuse neglect. Love doesn't blind me anymore. She pulled back, searching my face. Are we okay? I smiled gently. We will be. It wasn't a lie, but it wasn't the truth she hoped it was. The aftermath when the door closed behind her, the silence felt alive, warm, familiar. I poured myself a cup of tea and sat at my kitchen table, tracing the floral pattern in the wood with my fingertip. This house may be small, this life may be quiet, but it's mine, and I'm done begging to be included in someone else's. I stared at the steam rising from my mug and breathed in deeply. Then I made a decision, something subtle, something slow, something guaranteed to make them realize what they had done, not out of vengeance, but out of balance. If they didn't want me as part of the family, then they could finally see what life looks like without me, completely without me. The first step ofrvng. The next morning, I didn't text Elaine my usual good morning, sweetheart. I didn't check in. I didn't ask how the kids were. I didn't initiate anything. And by noon, she called twice. I let it ring. Not because I was playing games, but because I was giving her space to feel something she'd forgotten, my absence. At 3 p.m., she texted, "Mom? Are you okay? Please call me." I waited, let her marinate. Let her wonder. By evening, the phone rang again. This time I answered. "Mom," she breathed, panic in her voice. "Why didn't you respond?" "I was worried. I was busy," I said calmly. "With what?" "Living my life." Silence. A lesson delivered without cruelty. Just truth. The shift I'd put over the next few days. Elaine tried harder than she had in years. She called, she visited, she brought groceries, she checked up on me. Not because I guilt her, not because I demanded attention, but because for the first time, I let her feel what it was like to not be prioritized, to not be included, to not be thought of. And I watched her struggle with that realization, quietly, internally, the way emotional consequences always unfold. One afternoon she said, "Mom, I feel like we're drifting." I smiled softly. We drift when someone stops rowing. Sometimes the truth is a knife and sometimes it's a mirror. She swallowed hard. "I'm trying." "I know," I said. "Keep trying." The seed of doubt GOWS. By the end of the week, Elaine's guilt became visible, her voice softer, her posture smaller, her presence more intentional. But the most interesting thing, Mark began calling, too, the man who suggested I shouldn't stay so long. Suddenly checking in, suddenly concerned, suddenly attentive, not because he wanted to but because my daughter was unraveling in front of him, wondering if she had damaged something she couldn't repair. And Mark, he needed his wife steadied, so he called, "Hey, just wanted to see if you're doing all right." "I'm fine. Thank you for asking." He cleared his throat. "You know, Elaine feels bad." "She should," I said simply. He paused. "You're different lately." "No," I corrected him. "I'm just done explaining myself." Another silence. He wasn't used to this version of me. Most people aren't used to a quiet woman finding her voice. The hours on that night, I sat on my porch under the dim glow of the porch light, watching moths flutter against the bulb. The street was calm, the kind of calm that blankets you instead of suffocating you, and something dawned on me. For the first time in decades, I wasn't waiting for validation. Or permission. Or appreciation. I wasn't waiting to be included. I had stepped out of the circle. And the people who took me for granted were finally feeling the emptiness. Not because I punished them, but because I finally valued myself enough to stop chasing scraps of affection. And that was the real beginning of my revenge. A revenge not rooted in pettiness, but in self-worth. A revenge that would reshape the entire family dynamic. Slowly, quietly, irreversibly, and they still had no idea what was coming. The first big shift was simple. I stopped being available. 4 years, I was the yes person. Need someone to watch the kids? Yes. Need someone to drop everything and show up? Yes. Need financial help? Yes. Need emotional support at 2 a.m? Yes. But after the dinner incident, after hearing my own son-in-law say I'd overstayed my welcome, my yes became a conditional maybe. And eventually, a no. The funny thing is, when you start saying no, people react like you've committed a crime. And Elaine? She reacted like I had personally betrayed her. The first no, it happened 3 days after the silent shift began. Elaine called me at 7:45 am. "Too early for anything good, Mom," she said breathlessly. "I forgot the kids have half day today. Can you pick them up from school?" I sipped my tea. Calm. Collected. "I'm busy today." She froze. I could hear the confusion crackling on the other end. "But you're usually home." I changed my schedule, I said softly. "Oh. Okay. Well, what about tomorrow?" No. The silence turned stiff, sharp. "Are you upset with me?" she finally asked. "I'm simply not available," I replied. Another beat. I don't understand." "You don't have to." And I meant it. I wasn't punishing her. I wasn't playing games. I was just done being their unpaid, invisible support system. Elaine's panic GOWS. The second no came 2 days later. Mom, Elaine said, we're having a barbecue on Saturday. We'd love for you to come. Would love. As if this was a gesture. A week prior, I would have jumped at the invitation, but now, what time? I asked. Around 4. Oh, I said. I'm not free. Okay, well, what about after? You can stop by later. No, honey. Why? Her voice cracked. Mom, what's going on? I smiled to myself, not out of spite but out of pride, because she finally noticed I'm making plans of my own. I said, what kind of plans? Personal ones. You mean you're going out? She asked, stunned, like the idea of me having a life outside their needs was baffling. Yes. With who? Friends. She paused. You have friends? The sentence felt like a knife, but the difference between me then and me now was that I no longer bled for things that didn't deserve my pain. Yes, I said firmly. I do. She whispered, Mom, I think I'm losing you. And I answered honestly, you never had to lose me. You just had to value me. The friends she never knew. About 4 years, I had acquaintances, women from church, neighbors, ladies I chatted with at the market. We were friendly, but I never let myself rely on them. My world revolved around my children, but after the dinner incident, after the moment I stood outside like a stray dog while they laughed over roasted chicken, I realized something profound. They didn't center me in their life, so why was I centering them in mine? I reached out to 2 women, June and Carla, both widowed, both my age, both tired of being treated like furniture by their own families. We formed something small, but strong. A support circle. A weekly brunch. A pact, in a way, to stop letting ourselves be erased. They didn't know the whole story yet, but they saw the new steadiness in my voice. You're glowing, June said over pancakes one morning, confident. Carla added, I'm healing. I corrected them, but inside, something else was also happening, not just healing. Not just independence. A quiet plan, not malicious, not dramatic, just calculated. The invitation I turned down a week passed. Then 2. Elaine's guilt transformed into desperation. She began sending me pictures of the kids' voice notes, recipes she thought I'd like. Then came the message that told me she was truly unraveling. Mom, I made your casserole recipe. The one you used to make when we were little. It made me think of you. Please come for dinner this week. Dinner, that word still burned, still stung. I read her message 3 times. I imagined her in her kitchen, stirring ingredients, hoping nostalgia would undo what she did. It wasn't enough. I typed back, thank you for the invitation. I'm not available for dinner. Seconds later she replied, is this because of that night? Mom, how many times do I have to apologize? I took a long breath, then I wrote, apologies don't erase patterns, Elaine. Her typing bubble flickered, then stopped, then started again. She finally sent, I don't know how to fix this. I answered, start by recognizing it wasn't just one night. Mark tries to. 2 days later, Mark called. If I had $1 for every time that man pretended to care, I could buy a beachfront condo. Hey, Margaret, he said stiffly. Thought I'd check in. Hello, Mark, I replied, neutral. So, Elaine's been, well, she's been upset. I know. I think she feels like you're avoiding us. I am. He wasn't expecting honesty. It startled him. Well, maybe it's time we all sit down and talk. Clear the air. Talk about what? I asked. About how I overheard you say I should leave sooner. Or about how you ate dinner without me and pretended it was for my benefit. Silence. I didn't mean it like that, he finally muttered, but you said it like that. He exhaled harshly. Look, I'm trying here. For Elaine, I corrected. Not for me. More silence. You're right, he admitted. But can't we just move past this? We can, I said softly, but not on your timeline. The family group chat. That night, I heard the familiar ding of a group message. The family chat. Elaine typed, Mom and I are not on good terms right now. Her brother, my son, replied, what? Why? Her sister added, what happened? So Elaine explained, not fully, not fairly, but enough. Then came the messages from her siblings. She didn't eat dinner with you. You didn't wait for her. Seriously? That's harsh, Elaine. Mom lives alone, you know. Elaine panicked. I know, okay? I messed up. I didn't type a single word, not out of pettiness, but because the truth didn't need my help. They were holding her accountable in ways she never expected for once. I wasn't the one defending her, she was defending herself, and that was new, necessary, painful. Growth always is. The invitation that changed even 2 days later, I received another message from Elaine. Mom, I want to make this right. Can you come over this Sunday? Please. I want to talk. Just us. I stared at it, my chest tightened. This wasn't manipulation, this wasn't guilt-tripping, this was my daughter asking to repair something real, but I wasn't going to make it easy. I replied, I need to think about it. She answered immediately, I'll wait. The decision didn't respond for 24 hours, not because I wanted her to panic, but because I wanted to make sure I was ready. I wasn't the same woman who stood in their backyard crying because she wasn't invited to dinner. I had changed, strengthened, rebuilt myself, and if I returned to that house, it wouldn't be as an afterthought or an extra plate saved for later. It would be as someone who demanded, quietly but firmly, to be respected. To be valued. To be seen. So the next evening, I texted, okay. I'll come. Elaine replied instantly, thank you, Mom. Truly. The final moment of Sunday approached. I stood in my bedroom mirror the morning of, looking at myself carefully, and my hair brushed and my blouse ironed and my shoulders squared. Not because I wanted to look nice for them, but because I wanted to look like someone who loved herself, someone who finally understood her worth, someone who belonged, not at their table necessarily, but in her own life. I took a long breath. I picked up my purse, and I walked out the door, toward a conversation that would change everything. Hi again, it's Margaret. 74 years old, in case you forgot. And this is the part of the story where everything finally snaps into place. Where the woman who was left out of a family dinner learns to stop waiting for an invitation. So take a breath. This part gets heavy, and loud, and a little triumphant, but you've earned it with me. The morning after the fight, barely slept. Every time I closed my eyes, I saw their faces at that table, laughing, chewing, passing dishes across the spotless tablecloth, all while my roasted chicken sat in the fridge like a corpse. When I finally dragged myself out of bed, the house felt different, quieter, but sharper. Like everything had edges. I made coffee, sat at the kitchen table, and stared at the empty chair across from me. That chair used to mean comfort. Now it felt like a witness, and the worst part, I kept replaying the moment Julie said, Mom, you're being dramatic. I pressed my fingers to my temples and whispered to myself, maybe I am dramatic. I'm 74, I'm tired, and I'm dramatic. Let them deal with it. But some part of me, some ember, refused to burn out. They ate dinner without me. On purpose. And I wasn't going to let that be the way the story ended. Around noon, my phone buzzed. A text from Julie, Mom, let's just drop it. I didn't mean to hurt you. Let's move on. Move on, the two most dismissive words in the English language. I felt something inside me stiffen, straighten, harden. I typed back, I will move on, yes, but not in the way you think, give me space. And then, for the first time in years, I turned my phone off. I didn't want apologies laced with annoyance. I wanted silence. Clean silence. So I did something I hadn't done in a long, long time. I got dressed up. A soft blue sweater, slacks that weren't the loose ones I wore around the house, pearl earrings, light perfume. When I looked in the mirror, I saw someone I hadn't seen in decades. A woman who still had a spine. The visitor drove to my husband Robert's grave. I hadn't planned to. My hands just turned the wheel on their own. The cemetery was quiet except for distant crows and the crunch of dead leaves under my shoes. I stood in front of his gravestone, brushing away the dry grass. Hi, Robert, I said softly. My voice cracked on the second word. I think you'd laugh at me right now, crying over a dinner like a fool. The wind blew lightly, warm and soft for autumn. You should have been here, I whispered. You would have never let them treat me like this. Tears slipped down my cheeks, slow and steady. I didn't raise them like that. I thought we did better. God, I miss you. I sat down on the little stone bench and let the grief roll over me. Not just the dinner, not just the argument, but the years of shrinking myself so they wouldn't see my loneliness. I know what you'd tell me, I said shakily. You'd say, Marge, stand up. Go live your life before it's done. Well, I'm trying. I really am. And then, no dramatic lightning, no booming voice, just a small feeling in the center of my chest. A nudge. A push. A quiet certainty. This was not my rock bottom. This was my turning point. The dinner I made for Emilif that evening, I cooked again. Not a family-style spread, not a martyr's feast. Just a perfect dinner for one. Pan-seared salmon with butter and lemon, garlic, asparagus. A glass of white wine I had been saving for company. As if I wasn't company enough. I set the table with one plate. 1 fork. 1 cloth napkin. A candle, and then I sat down, and smiled. For the first time in a long time, I enjoyed the way the house sounded when it wasn't full of other people's voices. I took slow bites. I sipped my wine. I let silence be a friend instead of punishment. And halfway through the meal, I whispered, they ate dinner without me once, but I won't let them starve me emotionally ever again. Till around 8:30 p.m., I turned my phone back on instantly. BZZT, 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 dozens of messages. Julie, Mark. Even my granddaughter Emma voicemails, texts, missed calls, panic-laced their words. Mom, are you okay? Grandma, please answer. Mom, this has gone too far. Call us right now. Please. I stared at the screen for a moment. Then I picked one name, Emma, and called her back. She answered on the first ring, breathless. Grandma? Oh, thank God. We didn't know. I'm fine, sweetheart, I said gently, truly. She hesitated. Mom and Uncle Mark are really worried. I closed my eyes briefly. I know, I said, but they need to be uncomfortable for a little while. It'll do them good. There was a pause, then she whispered, Grandma, I'm proud of you. My throat tightened. Of all the things I expected to hear, that wasn't on the list. After we hung up, I left the other messages unread. Not as revenge. Not as punishment. I say boundary, the decision they didn't explicit the next day. I made one more decision. Point one that would change everything. I called a realtor. Hi, I said calmly. I'd like to talk about selling my house. Because somewhere between their betrayal and my quiet dinner alone, I realized something huge. I'd been living my whole life in a role I outgrew, the always available mother, the fixer, the last one standing, and when they left me out, really, they freed me, so I decided to free myself entirely. The final emissary before bed, I sent one group text to my children, I love you, but I am taking time for myself. I won't be available like before. We will talk when I am ready. Mom, no anger, no guilt, just truth. And oh, the silence afterward was delicious. Epilogue 4 Noe went to sleep that night feeling something strange and warm, not vindication, not satisfaction, not even sadness, peace. They ate dinner without me. On purpose. That's true, but I've finally learned something. Being left out hurts. But leaving the wrong people out of your peace, that's survival. And for the first time in years, I chose myself.